Hi, this is Deselany. Thanks for joining me. Some recent kind of rather sad events have got me thinking about guitars, specifically guitarists, specifically great guitarists. And that got me thinking, well, what makes a great guitarist? Honestly, I do play a little myself, but even I couldn't give you an answer to that one. I mean, the one thing I do know is that great is most definitely not all about virtuosity or technique or musicianship. In my opinion, it's about ideas, it's about taste, it's about execution. When I say execution, I mean that sometimes you can just do something really, really simple. And if you execute it very well, then it may be the best thing that you can do for the music that you're contributing to. So with that in mind, I've drawn up a totally unordered list, no ranking at all, of 20 of my favourite guitarists. I've literally just put them down in the order that I wrote them. So yeah, these are all drawn from punk, post-punk, indie, alternative kind of spheres, if you like. If I were to try and go much broader than that, then it would be a very, very long video, and no one wants that. So one thing I did do in making this list was I made a very conscious effort to avoid what I consider some of, the big players, the big names. They get talked about all over, and I just wanted to kind of give a bit more time to maybe some quirkier, some more esoteric, less celebrated players. That doesn't mean there's not going to be some big names in the list. But on this list specifically, I won't be mentioning Johnny Marr, Peter Buck, Bob Mould, Robin Guthrie, Jay Mascis, Kevin Shields, Will Sargent, Thurston Moore, Lee Ronaldo, or Johnny Greenwood. So yeah, as I said, there will be some big names on this list, and to kind of semi-contradict myself, there will be some people on this list who are kind of extremely capable, extremely technical players. What I've tried to do is I've tried to push those to a little category at the end, so that we can deal with them in kind of one block. So yeah, if you want to watch to the end, you'll get to those. If you want to skip to the end, fretboard gymnastics might just be your thing, then please feel free to do so now. So the first name on the list, and kind of the inspiration for this video and doing this list today, and that is the late Keith Levene. Yeah, Keith was a founding member of The Clash, but really if we're talking about his guitar playing, we're talking about his groundbreaking releases with Pill, with Public Image Limited, so first edition Metal Box, a little bit on The Flowers of Romance. Yeah, very free, fractured, harsh, but very beautiful playing. He could go from kind of clean, affected, kind of arpeggiated melodies to these kind of jarring, stabbing harmonics. Truly a revolutionary guitarist, and I think one of the foundations of the post-punk sound. Next, we have East Bay Ray of the Dead Kennedys. Yeah, so while so much hardcore punk was going, chuggy, chunky, distorted, kind of fast, hard playing, Ray did this kind of spindly, spidery, kind of reverbed, surfy thing. It gave a real edge to the Dead Kennedys' music. Yeah, these bright, echoey tones, single note lines dripping with reverb, really edgy, just gritty as hell. I don't really need to point you in the right direction for this. Think tracks like Holiday in Cambodia, Police Truck. Yeah, just a blistering guitarist, very fast, very trashy, very fun. Okay, next we have Randy Bewley of Pylon. Yeah, this is Pylon out of Athens, Georgia, the very late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, he had this very rattly, tight, bright, needling, often very funky kind of sound. Used odd tunings, so you get those kind of weird little distorted kind of beats when you get two strings slightly out of tune. Yeah, if you're looking for examples of Randy's playing, the exclamation mark EP with Cool and Dub of 1979 is an American post-punk classic. That really kind of doubles down on that kind of bright, scratchy, rattly sound. If you want to go a little further, then Beep from their second album, Chomp, that kind of highlights his kind of tighter, funkier sound. So next up, fourth in the list, and we have Joey Santiago of Pixies. Yeah, really, what's to say? Technically, Joey is kind of nothing out of the ordinary, but he's kind of supremely tasteful and oddly distinctive. He could let rip with completely unvarnished, noise breaks. Think of Vamos from Surfer Rosa. Squirrely, kind of painful slide guitar in there. Or he could just sit back and play the simplest of little three-note riffs. I mean, think of a song like Where Is My Mind without Joey Santiago's playing on it. Nah, you don't want to. Next up, we have Jeff Mueller of Rodan, Shipping News, Juno 44, amongst others. Yeah, just a very, very distinctive, cool guitar player. Complex and kind of fluid, but still rooted in a very post-hardcore style, I think. Yeah, this is one of those guys who's technically, I think, yeah, pretty proficient. But that complexity is never, indulgent. It always leads the music into really interesting places. Yeah, I highly recommend anything Jeff Muller's been involved in. If you wanted a jumping off spot, yeah, the Rusty album by Rodan is great, or Juno 44's The Anatomy of Sharks EP. That one's a must. Next up, bit of a kind of a joker in the pack, this one. It's another Keith. This one is Keith Dobson of World Domination Enterprises. Yeah, World Domination Enterprises were a grey, unsung kind of indie noise band of the late 1980s. So Keith infamously replaced his guitar's bridge with an old metal door handle. He detuned it and then just proceeded to strangle some of the ugliest, most abrasive noises possible out of it. Yeah, the World Doms were very funny, very situationist, and they kind of married that to a love of kind of 50s rock and roll and bubblegum pop. Yeah, if you want an introduction to Keith Dobson, I have 3 words for you. Asbestos, lead, asbestos. Go and find it now. So next in the list, at number 7, we've got Geordie Walker of Killing Joke. Yeah, he's a great guitarist. Very cool use of a hollow body guitar in a kind of a loud music setting. This is usually a no-no. It's very often a recipe for disaster. You get uncontrolled howls of feedback. But somehow kind of Geordie manages to kind of adapt his technique to just make that a real core part of his sound. Yeah, big user of chorus and able to switch between, really heavy, palm muted kind of industrial chug and these very pretty kind of modulated, arpeggiated lines. He could just do it, on a whim. Yeah, Geordie's a very kind of sneakily kind of influential guitarist, I think. Yeah, he's been with them from day one, so you could listen to anything from their back catalogue. The Way is a great early track from their kind of 80s kind of pomp period. Something like Kings and Queens or 80s or the big single, Love Like Blood. Yeah. So next up, yeah, we've got D. Boone of the Minutemen. And like East Bay Ray of the Dead Kennedys, this is a pretty unique tone for what initially started out as a hardcore band and then ended up as the Minutemen. Yeah, his tone is trebly as hell. I mean, he and Mike Watt, they split the frequency range equally. They basically said, we don't want to be treading on each other's toes. I'll take the bass and you take the treble. And that's exactly what D. Boone did. He's got this knack of weaving in these amazing, wormy little kind of solo lines sandwiched between this very choppy, precise rhythms and these stabbing, kind of clanging riffs. Yeah, there's much too much good stuff to recommend in the Minutemen catalogue. I could be here all day, but go and look for tracks like Cut, or The Glory of Man, Corona, Shit from an Old Notebook. The next up, number 9, I've got Poison Ivy of The Cramps. Yeah, for me, she was the originator of that trash, kind of B-movie, punk rock, garage, kind of psychobilly sound. Tremolo, check. Reverb, check. Twangy, single note, riffs, check. Yeah, this is kind of 50s rock and roll with the occasional kind of bit of nasty fuzz thrown in. Yeah, the music was kind of cartoonish and dark and funny. They were true originals. Yeah, you want some examples? Go for Human Fly, What's Inside a Girl, or something like I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Okay, number 10, halfway through this 20, and we've got Steve Albini of Big Black, a band whose name I don't really want to say out loud, and Shellac. Yeah, I think Steve created the industrial punk guitar sound. High treble, clean with this kind of incredible blend of like sharp, piercing gain and attack. Together, he used, a unique combination of equipment, a unique preamp, he used metal picks, this full range cab to amplify, all the frequency range. Yeah, aggressive, controlled, utterly unique, great use of dynamics too. Yeah, big back catalogues go through here. Start with Kerosene, work your way up through something like maybe Hated Chinese, and then kind of, by the time you get to Shellac, take your pick. Crow, Prayer to God, Billiard Player Song. Okay, next up we've got David Kilgour of The Clean and all his solo work. Yeah, I've talked about David at length in one of my other videos, so I won't spend too much time here, but I will put up a link to that specific video if you want to go to it. Yeah, David's sound is kind of a cleanish, kind of bright, clangy reverb sound. Very pretty. you're looking for tracks like Getting Older by The Clean or Dunes, or from his solo albums, the track You Forget is a good one. Okay, and next we have Asa Osborne of Lungfish. Yeah, as well as a shout out for Asa. This is kind of a shout out for all of that kind of breed of guitarists who are kind of in thrall to the sound. You know, the noise that you make when you're in a band and you just have to contribute. You don't overplay. You don't kind of do anything too flashy, but what you contribute is crucial to the feel of that sound. Yeah, supremely controlled, very direct. Kind of, you find it very difficult to separate the elements out of a Lungfish song. Yeah, it's a real kind of post-hardcore masterclass with kind of the elements of like, you know, ragga and drone and almost these kind of hymn-like kind of quality to the songs. Yeah, very underrated. Big back catalogue. Start with a few songs. Shed the World's a good one. Love is Love. Friend to Friend in the End Time. So next up, the 13th on my list is Ricky Wilson of the B-52s, the early incarnation of the B-52s. Yeah, Ricky's long departed, but never forgotten. Yeah, he played his Mosrite guitar with 2 bass strings and 2 treble strings and nothing in between. This meant, given the band's lineup, he was effectively playing kind of the bass and the guitar role all at once. Yeah, this period of the B-52s is just genius. You don't need me to tell you what songs to look for, but, you know, Rock Lobster, 52 Girls, there you go. So next up, I've got Kristen Hirsch of Throwing Muses, solo work, and her other band, 50-Foot Wave. Yeah, Kristen's a great singer-songwriter, kind of almost undisputedly so. But crucially, I think she's a really, really distinctive guitar player too. Yeah, she uses some very cool, interesting chord shapes, and yeah, she can be a brutal riffer when need be. Check out some of the 50-Foot Wave stuff. That's her kind of more rocking power trio. Some absolutely crushing stuff from her in that. Yeah, lots to look at here. Pointing out tracks as usual. Something like Mania, Hook in Her Head, Furious, or from 50-Foot Wave, Long Paintings, especially good. So next up at number 15 on this list, I've got John Rice of Rocket from the Crypt, Drive Like Jehu, Hot Snakes, The Sultans. There's probably a few more in there. Yeah, pardon my language for a second, but John Rice is a fucking powerhouse. Yeah, he's a tight, kind of whip-smart dervish of a riff machine. Just kind of piled driving, punk rock riffing with this very, very tight signature kind of clip and precision. Yeah, his speciality is this kind of propulsive, just pedal to the floor, garage punk sound. Yeah, there's something in his attack, the way he hits the strings, the way he changes chords. Precision doesn't really cover it. It's just this kind of, it's this John Rice feel. You just can't replicate it. Yeah, again, gems all the way through their back catalogue. Something like March of Dimes from Rocket from the Crypt, Do You Compute from Drive Like Jehu, or LAX by the Hot Snakes. And at 16, kind of a bookend to this part of the list, I have Andy Gill of Gang of Four. Yeah, another very dear departed post-punk guitar innovator. And he's there to kind of balance out Keith Levine at the start of this kind of sub-list, if you like. Yeah, he generated this really exciting kind of mix of kind of stabbing funk guitar with this kind of gritty British R&B, kind of Dr. Feelgood's Wilco Johnson was a big, big influence on him. A lot of that in his sound too. Yeah, and alongside that, just great, kind of almost pioneering use of feedback and of effects. I mean, look at their Songs of the Free album. Again, this is one I've covered in one of my other videos, and I will link to it up above somewhere. Yeah, Andy Gill, very influential, much copied, and I think never bettered. Where do you start? Well, I guess Love Like Anthrax would be as good a starting place as any. To Hell with Poverty is great. And kind of from this slightly slicker period, We Live As We Dream Alone is a favourite of mine. So I've got 4 left here in the list, and this is what I'm kind of dubbing my virtuoso section. You could argue that some of these should be in the main list or vice versa, but I've just put them at the end because they seem to fit there anyway. So first in this section, I've got David Parjo of Slint, Tortoise, and all his solo projects. Yeah, a real master of the kind of slippery, kind of subtle dynamics, but he also kind of can twist and turn to this kind of folky Americana side. Yeah, a really great guitarist, and his contributions are always well worth listening to. So next I've got Annie Clark of St. Vincent. I mean, I don't really know what I can say about her, really. She's just a very, very impressive guitarist, just technically speaking. I believe she did a degree in music, so yeah, she's just got chops. And next I've got Dwayne Dennison of the Jesus Lizard, amongst others. Very cool with the kind of jagged, the post-punk kind of riffing, and a very, very good slide player too. But yeah, he's got some kind of serious jazz scales in his bag that he can pull out when he needs to. Yeah, very, very slick. Very, very slick player. And last on this list, I've got Ian Williams of initially Don Caballero, but also several other projects, culminating most recently in Battles. Yeah, Ian Williams is kind of one of the godfathers, I think, of math rock, if you like. And the stuff he's doing now is really taking sampling and looping to places that I haven't heard it before in music. Yeah, he's kind of next generation in that respect. So there you go. I've tried to rattle through that 20 as quickly as possible. I'm sure if I went and sat down again, could quite happily come up with another 20 names. Yeah, please comment below with your thoughts. There may be someone I've missed, or you may just want to kind of talk a bit about one of the guitarists I've already mentioned. Anyway, again, thanks for watching, and thanks for all the support of late. It's very, very much appreciated. That's all that remains is for me to say, please come back and join me again. See you soon.